You want to be proactive, have a good system, and make sure you maintain people's rights. We are, it's done. That's all, we're past that point. So let's make sure it's done right. By a power that we have some say in, aka the government. What? What did you just say? What? Huh? Dude. So base. I literally don't understand her argument. I literally just don't understand her argument. Surely you would rather they're talking to an AI than a real kid. I literally don't understand. So base. Okay. Let's have a look at some of this Online Safety Act stuff. This is just like, I get the outrage over this. It's just impotent, you know? It's totally impotent. It's like pretty worthless. The debanking, the MasterCard and Visa coercing companies has been a thing for forever. It's not changing anytime soon. I'm sorry. You're gonna have to buy your lot of games in crypto or something. I just searched Online Safety Act and I've seen a 40-minute video from some woman.
I got lipstick on my teeth.
Wow.
Probably. I have noticed I've got multiple comments from people asking me to start using an external mic because of sound issues. I was not aware of this because the sound when I'm editing sounds absolutely fine, and then when I watch it on YouTube it's great. But it is not great for you. So I have an external mic now. I don't know how to use it. Howell's got COVID. So today I'm not using one, but in the interim, okay. Howell has showed me how to remove interference and enhance my voice in the edit. So we're going to see if that makes things better. The Online Safety Act is coming into place in the UK on the 25th of July. So by the time you're watching this, it will have happened. And the idea of it is to protect children by making it harder for them to access pornographic material because they're going to check the age of people who visit adult sites. This sounds like an excellent thing on paper, and in theory, I am totally in agreement. I don't want children seeing porn, but that's not really what I'm talking about today. What I'm talking
people sort of, it's actually quite a significant scope, the bill, I'm going to be real. It's not just that it requires porn sites to do ID verification. We did go over it before, a lot of it. But there's like different tiers of websites depending on user base that have different responsibilities, and Ofcom can issue fines, and they have to like produce transparency reports for Ofcom about how they're serving content and all that sort of shit, whether they're protecting people's freedom of speech, freedom of expression. There's all sorts of shit involved in it.
About is the kind of discourse that is going on around this subject. I watched Newsnight last night, a huge British BBC programme, and they were discussing the Online Safety Act. They were discussing specifically how it was going to stop children watching porn. And there was a panel of people talking about this, and I was not invited. No pornographer was invited, no porn performer was invited, no porn producer was invited, no porn customer was invited. Although obviously there was a porn customer on the panel. Can we get
because about just to chill and hang out like JSTLK does?
I
think it would be cool.
I'm good.
Smile.
I'm good. Thank you for the $5.
2% of us at a conservative estimate view porn. So, in a panel of 4, one of those people at least has viewed porn. It's so frustrating. So what I thought we would do is we would watch this programme, this Newsnight, together. And since they didn't have the courtesy to invite me to it, I'll just keep pausing the video and inserting myself into the discourse. I am looking forward to being on Newsnight. Hope you enjoy my performance.
That's based.
Thanks for listening. Right, let's get started. I've never done this before. This is extremely exciting to me. I've just learned how to screen record. At the moment, I don't know how to edit it, so it's in the bottom of the screen, but I'm thinking maybe doing this will help.
This is based. No, this is awesome. This is awesome.
How exciting.
You know,
let's get started. All right, Victoria, Derbyshire, what are you going to say?
Here, on Friday, new rules come in requiring all sites with pornographic content to enforce age verification in an attempt to stop under 18s viewing pornography online. Will those new rules work? Here are some
W. Winemom just doing fucking news night reactions. Recorded from the fucking laptop speaker. Recorded from the laptop inbuilt microphone in a living room.
young people with their own thoughts.
I was
Glad.
first exposed to pornography probably in the classroom with my mates.
No, you're right, that's bad.
People in school and stuff are playing like pornographic videos for the shock factor.
I do remember this. It's so unfortunate. So I was at high school. I was a teenager in the early 1990s, and I remember this. So this was pre-internet, but I'm sure a lot of us can attest to the desire of teenagers to gross each other out. So it's not like anyone showed me anything lovely. I mean, it was like teenagers went straight to the most extreme stuff they could, and it wasn't because it was sexy, it was because it was funny. So yeah, I'm with this young man. God.
That was not me seeking it out, so it must have been when I was like 12 or 13. But then if it was actually from my own personal usage, I guess I must have been about 14 or 15.
When I first saw pornography, it wasn't by searching for it, it was something that had popped up as I was scrolling on Twitter.
That's horrible.
When you're a teenager, it's almost weird not to, or almost seen as weird amongst like your peers to not have been exposed to it as opposed to being exposed.
I agree. Like maybe less in terms of porn and more in terms of actual having sexual contact. I was called frigid from like the age of 12 for not having had sex. And like looking back, I'm sure most of my classmates hadn't had sex at that age. But yeah, the shaming about being sexually immature or not being ready to look at sexually explicit material, I absolutely agree that that was an issue when I was at school, and I'm sure it's more so an issue now.
All of my friends, you know, when they were getting into their first relationships, sometimes they would get asked to do things that they didn't know about, or that they were too scared to try. You're expected to have the sexual know-how of a porn star when you're about 12 or 13.
That makes me very, very sad to hear. I mean, I remember the people I knew at secondary school who were being sexually active back in the early 90s. They were also being put under pressure to do stuff that maybe they didn't want to do for fear of being called frigid. That's certainly true, and I guess that online porn has made it even easier to shame people for not doing certain acts. What makes me quite happy though is to hear a young person saying, we were asked to do stuff we didn't want to do, and that was unacceptable, because that feels like social progress actually, that people are much more aware of the issue of consent than they were back in the mid-90s, and that just seems like a very good thing. So although she's talking about bad experience, I'm happy to hear that it sounds like young women of her generation are aware that that's a problem and that they shouldn't have to do stuff that a porn star's doing just because they've seen it depicted on screen.
Young women that I know have had some really like difficult first experiences of sex experiences where they've acquired bruises or experienced choking, which is a really big topic at the
let's just pull up and explain the video or something. Just fill people in. Online Safety Act explained. This video kind of sucked. And now it's doing fucking ads. The TLDR News really not have a single fucking video on the online safety? You're kidding me, right?
Welcome to our first Ofcom webinar on the Online Safety Act. This is the first
Ofcom webinar?
3 webinars on the Online Safety Act and on our illegal harms consultation, which was published just over a month ago. So this first one will be an overview of the Act and our approach and the key areas that we're consulting on at the moment. We'll have a second session in the new year focusing on the risk assessment duties and our draft risk assessment guidance. And then we'll have a third one shortly after that, again in the new year, focused on codes of practice and the measures that we're recommending online platforms take to tackle illegal content. So I've got a panel of from our policy team here today. They're going to walk us through the presentation for about half an hour, 35 minutes. And then we've left plenty of time for your questions. We've received a few in advance. And then we'd love to have your feedback after the session as well. I'll be sending out a feedback form. You can sign up for further updates from us and let us know what you found useful or less useful about today. So I think that's enough introduction. I'm going to hand over to get us started.
Dude, okay, here's the thing. This is one of my big problems with this legislation, I think. I'm fine. At this point, I'm fine with starting to try and gate parts of, if not basically the whole internet away from children. Okay? I'm like so on board with that. I wish it was done more through the government though. I don't like the ID verification is done privately through private companies. I don't think that's good. And honestly, it used to be, look, when I used to be like, you know, the one thing I really, other than the Iraq War, the one thing I really disagree with Tony Blair on is the whole government-issued digital ID, you know, fucking one ID, this shit, you know, that has like your biometrics and all this shit. I used to be like, that's one of the only things where I really disagree with Tony Blair, is that's a bad. And now I'm more like, well, we're heading into a world where you're basically gonna have that. Well, you already have that, except it's stored and handled by 100 different third-party private companies that all have different data points on you. And then they get collated by fucking brokers and shit. So, honestly, I would rather we just stopped all of that, made it so the government gives you your digital ID, your real ID, and then you can verify that with websites to show who you are. Is there even a video of Tony Blair talking about it? Yeah, 3 months ago, a video from the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change. Let's go. That's what I'm talking about.
The Times Commission has done important work highlighting the role of digital innovation in shaping the future of governance and public services, and this discussion could not be more relevant. The benefits are clear. Digital ID will make our interactions with each other and with the state faster, cheaper, and more reliable. It will allow us to judge who has a right to be in our country and who doesn't, and so solves one of the major challenges of immigration. Facial recognition can now spot suspects in real time from live video, tracking organized criminals at borders, in public spaces, even helping find missing people. In London, live facial recognition led to 360 arrests by the Met Police between January and October 2024, just in a pilot project. It boosts response times and helps identify suspects quickly in busy places like train stations and events.
I have no desk coverage up.
Live video from body cams and CCTVs can be used to provide real-time advice to officers from a command center or deploy resources to where they're most needed. AI will go even further, spotting crime patterns, guiding patrols, and streamlining decisions. Police forces are also ditching outdated systems for cloud-based platforms, giving officers real-time access to data and to smarter tools. This means they can get fingerprint matches from a crime scene in minutes, not days, simply by taking a photo with their smartphone. So we cannot continue with business as usual, and change is inevitable. This is where technology, like digital ID, becomes critical. My institute's own analysis shows that introducing this in the UK would save at least $2 billion a year, and likely more, by reducing losses to fraud, improving tax collection, and better targeting of state support. We know this because around the world, countries like Estonia, Singapore, even India.
See, it's just, this is the way stuff's heading. This is just the way the technology is going. All this sort of shit's going to be happening. You might as well be proactive and have a good system. Okay, that's basically my feeling on it at this point. You want to be proactive, have a good system, and make sure you maintain people's rights.
Successfully implemented digital ID systems, cutting red tape, and improving efficiency. These nations aren't just adopting new technology.
What do you mean this isn't a good system? The system isn't thoroughly laid out here. He's just saying digital IDs. We should have digital IDs that allow you to see things about people quickly. That is the way it's going. Sorry, you're going to be in fucking databases everywhere. It doesn't matter whether it's done through a formalized digital ID or not. In fact, you should probably be... This is why I'm so in favor of this. You should be fucking hoping it's done through a formalized digital ID and not done through fucking a million data breaches and shit like that being collated into a fucking individual intel document that the police are using on you anyway. Okay? Like, I'm sorry. You should be fucking wishing for formalized digital IDs with the way shit is going right now. And if you don't see that, you're blind.
They are reimagining how the state itself works. Of course, concerns about privacy and security are valid, but these systems, done in the right way, actually give individuals more control.
What do you mean facial recognition software isn't maintaining people's rights? Which right does facial recognition software infringe on? Please, I'm interested. Facial recognition doesn't necessarily hurt people's right to protest. It can be used to. That's what I'm saying. You have to maintain the rights. Being surveilled on Face IDs using biometric data, that's already happening. That's been happening. We've had CCTV covering the country for fucking 20 years. It's a protected right to preserve biometric data. Yeah. But you should want the people are going to be handling your biometric data either way. This is my point, right? You're already giving over your biometric data. Companies already have that. It's being stolen. You give it away. Yes, companies have biometric data. Yes. Yes. Like right now in the UK, because of the Online Safety Act, companies are insisting that you do 3D scans of your face to prove that you're of age. User services, and then that's handled through a third-party platform which holds the data and processes it. Because we're already going this way. Because we're already way past the idea of like, are we gonna have digital IDs or not? Are we gonna be giving over our biometric data to some kind of authority to decide whether you're of age or whatever? No, we are. It's done. That's all. We're past that point. So let's make sure it's done right by a power that we have some say in, aka the government, and not fucking private companies that you have no control over. But the reason why it's been enshrined in law is because people want the protections of things like the Online Safety Act. People want to be able to... People want legislation that forces companies, big platforms, tech companies, to be more accountable to the interests, the well-being of the people. That is something people broadly do want now. People want to know that social media algorithms aren't being designed in a way to deliberately strip away at their fucking mind. That they aren't being designed to traumatize their children. They want that transparency, that reporting, and some authority to intervene and stop that. Okay, so that's being put in. People are really resistant, though, to the idea of digital IDs and the government handling your digital ID. So the workaround has been, well, private companies will do it. But that's worse. That's worse. GDPR is based. I love GDPR.
Over their own data. With robust safeguards and transparency, we can ensure that digital ID enhances rather than threatens personal privacy. The key is building trust and designing, with thought and intention, systems that are secure, fair, inclusive, and effective at combating crime and making us all safer. The alternative, managing an ineffective status quo, will let down the public. Britain has the capability to lead in this digital revolution. We have world-class universities, leading AI research, and a thriving tech sector. If we can seize this opportunity, we can build a government that is smarter, leaner, and more responsive to people's needs. And now is the time to embrace it.
Wow. I wonder if they've spoken about the Online Safety Act at all. No.
Today. So
let's go to the Ofcom webinar.
Thanks to you all for joining today. It's great to see so many people on this call. And I wanted to start the session just to contextualise things by giving a high-level view of the Online Safety Act and what it's about, our plans for delivering our new responsibilities under the Act, and how this consultation on illegal harms fits into those sort of plans for mobilising the new regulatory framework. So to start off on the Act then, and at its core, the Online Safety Act imposes a duty of care on online platforms, in essence, to take steps to protect their users from harm, and makes Ofcom the regulator responsible for ensuring that platforms are fulfilling their obligation. It's really important to stress, though, that the new regulations are not content regulation, so they're quite distinct from what we do in the broadcast space, for example. We won't be making judgments about or telling platforms to take down particular individual bits of content or individual accounts, and the Act doesn't empower us to do that. Rather, consistent with the sort of provisions in the Act, what we'll in essence be looking for platforms to do is three things. So firstly, we want all companies in scope of the Act to do a thorough assessment of the risks of harm occurring on the platforms they run, and to put in place...
Banning VPNs would be actually absurd. I can't imagine they're going to ban VPNs. If they try and ban VPNs, I will actually be in the street.
Strong governance measures.
The point of this is specifically designed. This is what fucks me off so bad. Is it's like, this legislation is not designed to target the user, the poster. It's not. It's designed to target the platform. But it is selling the user down the fucking river because people are just having to hand over their fucking data to these third-party private companies. And like a bunch of these different platforms are going to use different third-party companies. And if there's a data breach, it's just going to be fucked. So I want it handled by the government.
To manage the risk of harm. Secondly, we want firms to put in place systems and processes to mitigate the risks that they identify in their risk assessment. For example, we set out in our consultation that we want platforms that have a high risk of child sexual abuse material occurring on them to deploy automated tools to detect and remove this content. And finally, we want the largest firms to give users choice by providing...
Anybody else remember the old VPN ads that were like, "We'll never give the government your data," as if selling it to other companies was better?
Thank you for the $5. Huge appreciated and very true.
With tools to control the content they see and control who they interact with. And we hope that, if in-scope services do these three things, that will engender trust, both in the services themselves and in the sort of regulatory regime. Now, it's important to stress that related to these points, that the presence of harmful content on a service isn't necessarily a sign of non-compliance with the Act. We recognise that no systems and processes are perfect. If a service has taken all proportionate steps and put in place all proportionate processes to address the risk of harm, but some harmful content remains on the platform nonetheless, then it will be compliant. The acid test is whether a service has taken proportionate measures to mitigate risk. We're not expecting all harmful content to be picked up and removed. Also important, content regulations is sort of international and vast, really. It's hard to be certain, but we estimate that over 100,000 services age verification on adult services. We'll continue our work in this area by publishing a wider consultation on harms to children.
There's got to be better informational videos about this.
Communication.
Surely. There just is not good, like, discussion on this. It's quite annoying. Oh, dude. Okay, let's carry on watching this react video. Fuck it.
But because they think that that's normal, they think that that's okay, when in reality it's not. And that's because pornography sets so much of what we think is normal.
I have to say, in 21 years as a pornographer, I haven't seen anything that I've considered to be choking porn. Obviously, what counts as...
What? Huh? What? What? What did you just say? What? Huh?
In reality, it's not, and that's because pornography sets so much of what we think is normal.
I have to say, in 21 years as a pornographer, I haven't seen anything that I've considered to be choking porn. Obviously, what counts as choking porn is probably a rather subjective measure, so I don't feel like it's as prevalent as...
Craziest reveal of all time. Absolute craziest reveal of all time there. Absolute craziest reveal of all time.
We are hearing people say it is, but it's certainly something that people seem to have a very visceral reaction to if they see it. And certainly it is an activity that if you do it in real life, it has some very real, very significant risks. So I can see why people are worried about it. On the other hand, again, 21 years in the industry, I don't know a single person who's ever been damaged by doing anything choking related at a photo shoot. And obviously I know an awful lot of porn performers. So I'm hesitant to accept the idea that there's an awful lot of actual choking in porn, because I feel like if there was, I'd know some people who'd been injured, and I don't, despite having a huge number of very frank conversations over the years. On the other hand, I do know people outside porn who have had adverse experiences with this, so it's certainly a social problem. I'm not honestly sure whether it's really a popular porn thing, because as I say, like, I mean, I inhabit the world of porn and I have never seen it. Fair enough, I've not gone looking for it because it seems like quite a disturbing genre to me. It's not really to my taste. I might like playing with it in private, or at least with the idea of it, but the idea of seeing someone else appearing to be choked is really distressing to me. I do wonder if it's become the kind of political hot potato because people have gone hunting for the worst porn they can find. I don't think this panic, specifically about choking porn, is particularly representative of what is in your average porn film, which I'll talk more about later. Not to say that we shouldn't address it, but I do think it's possibly being rather overstated.
To an extent, a ban or a limit would always do something.
Young people are incredibly tech savvy, especially, I'm 20 years old now, but people younger than me, I think, wow, they've been brought up around iPads and iPhones in particular, they will absolutely be able to find their way around.
That's a good thing to reduce just make it less accessible for people, or especially young people. I mean, older people, things like VPNs, people are still going to find pornography.
People looking for porn always find it, and we should be even more worried if people are starting to turn to dark corners of the internet, which are unmoderated and unregulated.
Yeah, I think that's a really fair point.
Shortly, I'll be discussing this with our panel this evening. Former Conservative leader of the House of Commons, Penny Mordaunt, is with
not a pornographer
this tonight, as is General Secretary of the trade union Unison, Christina McAnee.
Also, no industry experience of being a pornographer.
First, an independent review
She's seething about not getting the invite, man. She hates not getting the invite.
Baroness Gabby.
So, awesome. Panel of 4 people. Not a single pornographer. Just why? Just why? It might be because they don't want to hear what we've got to say, but you at least have to admit that we might have some relevant knowledge.
Person who is here, thank you for being with us. I mean, you just heard.
I mean, probably not, to be honest. But
if people want to find pornography,
hey,
and
whatever.
18, they'll just use a VPN. Is that fair?
Well, I think it's not going to be foolproof.
We support her anyway.
In fairness, the regulators and the government always knew that. But if it does stop children accidentally finding porn, and I think one young person said that it's going to make it more difficult, that has to be a good thing. But my point on this is this.
I agree with her on that. Like, I find it quite hard to get particularly passionate about, you know, like a 17-year-old who is already sexually active, who wants to look at the sort of porn they already are aware that they like, because they're already having a sex life, they already know what sex acts interest them. I find it hard to get particularly concerned about them seeing it, because clearly by that age they are sexually mature enough to be having sex, they are sexually mature enough to be seeking this stuff out. I sort of assume that that might mean that they're ready to cope with what they see. But the idea of people accidentally stumbling across porn is really upsetting, because although I don't think I stumbled across anything accidentally, I was shown some by people who were, I think, trying to bully me with it. I did accidentally see some stuff in TV and films that really upset me, both sexual and in terms of violence. I just wasn't ready for it. I'd grown up in a cult, so I'd not seen a lot of TV and film, so I was very, very sensitive to it.
Grown up in a cult as well, dude.
Films that really upset me, both sexual and in terms of violence. I just wasn't ready for it. I'd grown up in a cult, so I'd not seen a lot of TV and film, so I was very, very sensitive to it.
Grew up in a cult, went into porn, now talking about online safety, now we should have more online freedom. Actually just W YouTube channel here.
It was amazing, but also it felt very real to me. So I experienced significant distress as a result of accidentally being exposed to stuff that I really wasn't ready for. So yeah, I'm sympathetic to this idea.
This is the tip of the iceberg. You know, age verification is the very beginning, the smallest part that you have to do on this. You have got to look at the online pornography industry. You've got to regulate it.
And what a great way to do that it would be if you spoke to some of us. What a good idea that would be. I cannot think of another industry, except maybe like drug dealing, when you would discuss the industry without having representatives of the industry. It's mind-blowing.
Even then, why would they not get a drug dealer on Newsnight? Fuck it, man. Fuck it, why not? That sounds fucking awesome. Get some of these shots on fucking Newsnight.
More, you've got to scrutinise it more. Let's be clear, there is a huge amount of content on there, hugely abusive, violent, misogynistic content that would not be legal offline.
Right. This is where she starts to become quite controversial to me. Because in professionally produced porn, I'm struggling to think of any illegal acts.
Wait, do you guys remember when Jon Snow smoked spice or whatever? Oh, sorry, it was skunk. It was skunk. I always forget it. It's skunk. It's skunk.
I guess it's 20 minutes since I ingested whatever it was. Be separated from myself.
Hi John, come on down.
That's okay.
Yeah. Alright John, here we go. Okay John?
Dude. He's so based. So based.
Right now, okay. How you doing?
Not terribly well. I feel this overwhelming desire not to go on with it. Sorry about this.
No problem. At all.
No problem at all.
It's just research.
We really don't want to get anybody uncomfortable or distressed.
I did promise you a hug, didn't I?
I felt awful in that. Absolutely terrible. I mean, if you stick it out in Gaza, you should be able to stick it out in a bloody scanner.
I love British TV, man.
But this was aggressive filth. This was something which did something. This robbed me of my persona, of my soul. I never ever want to be subjected to that again. Never.
Bro, you smoked hash. Chill. Like, what? Bro.
Shown. We're already not allowed to show anything with weapons, even fake weapons. We're not allowed to show anyone appearing to lose consciousness. Certainly not allowed to show anyone who appears to be dead. We're not allowed to show blood. So actual violent acts that would be illegal in real life if you saw them on the high street are absolutely illegal in porn. So this is a really odd point that she's making.
That's not going to be dealt with by the Online Safety Act as a whole.
No, I mean, this is the point. So my review came up with 32 recommendations, and the sort of key...
literally, you literally can't film, like, CNC porn in the UK. I'm pretty sure. Isn't that crazy? You can't make fake rape porn in the UK. That's illegal to do. Why the fuck? Why the fuck? You're not allowed to do that. Or water sports, true. It's insane. Actual, just like, you know, nanny state.
Recommendation within that is that you have to get parity between what was legal offline, which the BBFC would classify.
Okay, so it's becoming clearer. She's not talking about what would be illegal or legal to do on the high street. So she's not saying that porn should be held to the same standards as the law regarding what private individuals are allowed to do in real life. So I'm glad she's not trying to say that, because we're already bound by the same laws. If you're not allowed to do it in real life, you are definitely not allowed to do it in a porn film. But now I discover that's not what she means. She means that we should be held to the same standards mainstream film and TV is held to the same standards as the BBFC. And that is a whole different matter, because that would be wonderful. Because if we were to be held to the same standards as the BBFC, we would be able to show weapons, because you're allowed to show weapons in even like PG-rated movies. We would be able to show blood. Not that I want to, but we would be able to. We'd be able to depict non-consensual acts if the performers were consenting. We'd be able to show people pass out or be asleep.
She's based. She's based. Okay, listen. Absolute W. Yeah, I wish we were held to the same standards as the film industry. Then we could depict rape.
Be allowed to show people with swords. Oh my god. If what she actually wants is parity between the porn industry and the mainstream film industry, that would be an absolute gift to professional pornographers like me. As it is, we are held to far stricter standards. And I'm not saying that necessarily is wrong, because one thing about porn is it's often being done by very small scale productions. So keeping people safe when something is very small scale and you don't have a whole load of union representatives there to look after you, it is possibly harder than on a mainstream film set. So that's a different discussion to have. But to hear her say that, it shows such ignorance from her about what pornographers are actually going through in terms of compliance. If we just had to keep to the same rules of what we're allowed to show as movies that are shown after 9 p.m. on BBC, that would be absolutely amazing. Good Lord.
Say there were very strict guidelines around what could be produced and what couldn't be produced, and that has not transcended over to online law, and that had...
It has. I mean, it's been done by MasterCard and Visa rather than the actual law. I mean, there is the Extreme Porn Law and the Obscene Publications Act, but in practice...
And she's anti-payment processor too? She's anti-MasterCard and Visa too?
Because Visa and MasterCard have handed down such draconian rules about what we're allowed to show, yeah, it is absolutely translated over to porn. Far more so than in mainstream.
It has to change immediately.
Why do you think it hasn't transcended?
Well, because it wasn't it wasn't drafted with that in mind, in truth. So it's, you know, this is another example of where regulation and the law has just not kept pace with the reality of what people are doing. And I think it's very important to emphasise the scale of this. It's 13.8 million people regularly watch porn. That is almost a third of all adult males watch pornography in this country regularly. So this is not sort of...
It's actually, I think it's a lot more than that. The last statistic I saw was over half of us. So she's kind of saying it's like 1 in 6, I guess, if it's 1 in 3 males. I think it is quite a lot more than that. But, okay, fair enough. I will accept what she said.
Niche sport. This is not something that can't be looked at properly. It would be unthinkable for the tobacco industry, for the gambling industry, for the drinks industry not to be regulated and scrutinised properly. This is a high harm industry.
What? Okay, so I was about...
It is regulated and scrutinised like crazy. No, like she just went over like you can't make like any fucking porn in the UK.
To agree with her, because yes, I think that it's absolutely true that this is a large industry. The individual people working in the industry are often really small time because a lot of us are shooting niche content, but the industry as a whole is large. But rather than saying, oh, that's why it's such a big problem, I would say that's why it's such an important service, because in my opinion, about half of us are watching this stuff. So actually protecting people's access to it, given that it's clearly valuable...
Wait. Wasn't Belle Delphine living in the UK when she was like active? How was she not breaking the law like crazy with a bunch of shit she was doing?
Enough to a large enough number of people that it is being accessed on this scale. Yeah, I would say it's not like banning fox hunting that will affect a few thousand people. If we were to make it impossible for British people to view porn, for example, which is not happening at the moment, but it sounds like she'd quite like it to happen, that would affect half of us, or even by her estimation, it would affect a sixth of us, which is huge. Oh, a high harm industry. Now, and the fact that no one's going to challenge that because there's no one on this TV sofa.
That's actually facts. This is like a Aiden type point, you know, where you just go, oh yeah, that porn's harmful, and then you never have to substantiate it. You know, you just keep saying, well, obviously it's harmful.
Who works in our industry. A high harm industry to whom? Because your average porn star these days in the UK is an OnlyFans model working at home on her own. She's shooting solo content. She's not being choked. No one's even having sex with her because it's solo. Your average piece of pornographic content is solo. Most porn performers who fall under this umbrella of adult online content, you have to remember that most of them are not even shooting hardcore. Most of them are by themselves, self-shooting on a phone, shooting whatever content they feel like. So when you say porn as a whole is a high harm industry, it certainly is not high harm to the performers, although the stigma certainly does cause some harm. So is it high harm to the consumers? Well, that is a very controversial thing to say. I mean, I'd say it might well harm people who are not.
It's just not substantiated that there is like this huge harm from watching porn at all. Not substantiated at all. I don't know why people feel so confident just asserting it to be the case.
Mature enough to view it yet. Like, I think that pornography could harm children, but pornographers are not producing their work.
I don't trust that Vosh expose at all. I don't trust that Sarah Uncensored person at all. That Sarah is censored, whatever her fucking name is. Unless there's some proper verification or a response or something, I don't give a fuck about that.
To be accessed by children. Firstly, because we're not psychopaths and most of us have children we love in our families. It's not like we are a group of people completely...
Yeah, she's been a bullshitter before, and she has like a charge for child endangerment or child abandonment or something, and she's just like a complete nutcase. So I don't, unless someone else is verifying that, or Vosh is responding to it in some way. I'm good at the moment.
Divorced from the idea of caring about children and their well-being, but also there's no point having children viewing your work because they're not going to pay you for it, are they? Because they don't have credit cards. That's not the reason I don't want kids to view my work. That's not my primary reason. The primary reason is it's not for them. But also, there is no pornographer I've ever met who's like, oh, I'd really love some children to watch my...
Well, there's not really good evidence that porn reduces the rate of sexual violence. It's just it seems to correlate. There's not really a good causal link shown, but it seems to correlate. That if porn is available, there's less sexual violence. Places with more, you know, like access, I don't know what you'd call it. I guess sexual openness or something. Just places that tends to correlate with less sexual violence. When you have a bunch of people, a bunch of fucking poor, religious people who talk about how sex is a sin and shit, they tend to rape each other a bunch. When you have a bunch of libs who watch porn and have money, they don't rape each other. Okay? That just seems to be how it works.
Might work because we're not insane, but also they're not going to pay us. Oh God, it's such an incredibly basic, simple point, and no one on this sofa is going to make this point.
And it needs to be dealt with properly.
Can I come back to age verification? As I said, the new rules coming in on Friday. I want to ask you specifically about X. You have to be 13 to be on X.
That is shocking to me, honestly. I mean, I know that for years and years and years, at least a decade, any adult performer on Twitter has been shadow banned to hell, so you can't just find them.
Yo, I found Kuihman's ID in a Pornhub driver's license leak. So much okay, dude. You are crazy if you think I would ever. I did give my ID to Discord. I would never, ever give it to a porn site. Ever. I also showed, guys, I tried to do on Discord, the verification. And it asks you, you can do it by camera. Or you can do it by ID. And so I tried doing it by the camera first. And I tried it twice, and it put me as teen both times. And I ended up having to give it my ID. I posted the screenshot. Where is it? Yeah. It's fucking over, man. It's fucking over.
Also, we all put up mature content warning on our work, so I would have hoped that would stop a child from stumbling across my Twitter stuff. Having discovered this has made me feel a lot less comfortable with putting up automatic previews of my porn work, because I do not want 13-year-olds watching it. I mean, that seems incredibly irresponsible, that any social media platform would allow adults and children just to all use the same thing. Yeah, I don't really think Twitter is a good place for a 13-year-old. Not only because of the porn, but, oh God, because of the potential for cyberbullying. Yeah, that is quite shocking to me.
You can now see pornography on X. It is freely available. Elon Musk changed it so pornography can feature on it.
They're not going to mention the tube sites. I don't know why. In my experience, when people of that generation talk about it, they always mention Pornhub. It's the tube sites they looked at, because on Twitter, I guess you can see, you know, a still image, or you can see a 20-second preview or something. But of course on Pornhub, Xhamster, all of those sites, you can see full hardcore videos if you want. So it's not surprising to me at all. I asked my removal men, because they weren't at all shocked by all the equipment that they were moving, all of my and Howell's fetish stuff. And I apologised to them, because I thought,
dude, this woman is so based.
Sites, you can see full hardcore videos if you want. So it's not surprising to me at all. I asked my removal men, because they weren't at all shocked by all the equipment that they were moving, all of my and Howell's fetish stuff. And I apologised to them, because I thought it might be a bit shocking, and I remember them saying, oh, we all grew up watching Pornhub, so nothing shocks us. And so that got me interested, and so whenever I got into a conversation with someone of that sort of age group, I would ask them, and they would say, Pornhub.
Is X going to comply with these new age verification?
Well, we'll have to see on Friday, but I mean, it's certainly true that social media firms, and X in particular, have been the place where most young people have found pornography. And I think parents...
Yeah, I don't actually think that's true. I don't think it's social media. I think it's tube sites, for the reason that I just said, because you can watch full videos on there. And also, there are mature content warnings on social media. So I don't think it's massively likely you're going to stumble across porn by accident on Twitter, but until this year there was no warning on Pornhub. The first page you get to, the landing page, was just hardcore porn. They've now changed it, probably because of the law change, but they didn't do anything voluntarily to protect children from seeing porn, whereas Twitter at least has the shadow banning and the having to report whether you're posting mature content or not.
When they discovered this, have been absolutely shocked and appalled. You know, nobody really was aware that was going on, and I think that is something that well, if they are not going to address it by Friday, then they should face the full force of Ofcom's regulations, business disruption fines, and they should not hesitate to act quickly on that. And I think I would also say that it's very troubling that we also see another one of Elon Musk's products, Grok AI, creating sort of companions that are often children.
No way! No way! They're gonna see about the waifu companions? Come on, come on.
And very quickly the conversations become sexualised, and often conversations where they're interpreting, you know, relations, incestual relations between fathers and young daughters.
Okay, this is outside my area here. Like, so Grok AI she's talking about. And I think she's talking about people being able to talk to an AI who will then sort of mimic an underage person. I think that's what she's saying. So people are sort of sexting with AIs who are kind of acting like they're children. Don't quote me on this. I have to say, I mean, it's distasteful. The idea is distasteful.
Dude, holy fuck. What is she about to say? What is she about to say? Oh, the idea is distasteful.
People are sort of sexting with AIs who are kind of acting like they're children. Don't quote me on this.
Let her cook.
I have to say, I mean, it's distasteful. The idea is distasteful. But actually, I would definitely rather someone with those kind of inclinations. I would much rather they were talking to Grok than to an actual child. So
beautiful.
It seems a bit of an odd red herring, really. I don't really see where she's going with that.
Is that true?
Dude. So based. I literally don't understand her argument. I literally just don't understand her argument. Surely you would rather they're talking to an AI than a real kid. I literally don't understand. So based.
Reports would suggest so.
Right.
Oh my
The government have
God.
to act very, very quickly on that. You know, the damage with these kinds of fast-reaching technology and fast developing technology, you can't wait 5 years for review, 5 years for legislation. You have to get going with it immediately.
I should say the Science and Technology Secretary, Peter Kyle, will be on the programme on Thursday. Your report talks about the rise of deep fake pornography, which is when pornography is created by altering or manipulating images of someone's face or body. That has now become illegal to do it without someone's consent. Penny Mordaunt, I want to bring you in here because this has happened to you. Tell our audience what happened.
Yeah, I'm not going to defend that. It's absolutely disgusting. It's horrible. It's weaponised against female politicians. I don't think I'm going to have any argument with what Penny Mordaunt says.
I mean, not a week has gone by in my parliamentary career when something of this nature hasn't happened. But I think it's just important to say at the outset that despite all of that, as Nick will verify, I'm desperate.
Okay, I don't like that. I don't like that. Do not express any sympathy for Penny Mordaunt.
The upsides of the job far outweigh the downsides of being in the public eye. But yes, this is one aspect of it.
What
victim of. Well, I learnt this from an investigation that Kathy Newman carried out, and my face had been used. An AI porn generated deepfake porn. It happened to a number of parliamentarians, and I would ask people behind this, you know, don't they realise the consequences in the real world when they do something like that? Because although I haven't seen this myself, it was deliberately humiliating and violent.
I mean, awful, nothing but sympathy for her. I'd question the kind of conflation of porn produced by pornographers who are hiring consenting performers. I mean, it's an entirely different issue. No, this is just disgusting.
And that plays across into the real world. It plays across into people taking actual real world actions against ourselves. And that
Ghislaine Maxwell has been granted limited immunity by Trump while speaking to the DOJ. There's literally no fucking... Wait, 15 minutes ago. Oh my God. Ghislaine Maxwell, whose sources told ABC News, initiated meetings with the Department of Justice, answered questions for about 9 hours over 2 days after being granted a limited form of immunity.
That has happened to me. It's happened to a lot of my colleagues. And
interesting, though, that if we were to work hard on destigmatising pornography, then doing deepfake porn...
Yeah, Trump's a pedophile. Trump's actually just a pedophile. Well, at what point can you just start saying Trump rapes kids? Trump actually does just rape kids. He obviously rapes kids. We can tell he rapes kids because he's hiding this shit. The only reason you would take all this flack and have people assume that you rape kids is because you actually rape kids and you know that it'll be confirmed if the truth comes out. Literally anything else is better. Whatever it is, if it's not raping kids, you would just let it go public because nothing is as bad as everyone thinking you rape kids. It just doesn't make any sense otherwise. Why are you doing deals with Ghislaine Maxwell if you didn't do anything? Doesn't make any sense. At what point can you just call him a fucking pedophile?
As an attempt to humiliate someone would be less effective if we weren't so judgmental.
I've not seen the video of the girl, but I know there was that lawsuit about a girl who was actually sexually assaulted by Trump when she was like 13.
The images in the first place.
I do think, I mean, the worry for me is actually more with children.
Yes.
And we wouldn't want people to see these things on the walk to school. If they did, they'd be in therapy. But we have seemed to be perfectly happy for them to see it online. And so I'm with you.
No, I don't think anyone's happy with that. I don't think anyone knows.
I don't think they just spoke to her for more information. I think Trump is probably trying to get her to be silent. Probably trying to get her to not get anything said publicly.
Much further, and we need to recognise the real harm this is doing to young
And when you say you're with the Australians, you mean social media ban for under 16s?
I would ban certain social media platforms, and I think...
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad idea, I must say. I can see how growing up in this world, not being able to use social media would feel like you were missing out on basically the world. I don't like the idea of vulnerable children being on social media, more because of cyberbullying, because we're just discovering how widespread that is. That concerns me more than porn, but I don't have any children who have come to me and said, "Mummy, I've just seen some horrible porn." So I'm maybe not in the best position to judge how much that is happening on social media, because I know that all my peers have marked their content as for a mature audience only, but I don't know what a 12-year-old's user experience on Twitter is like. I can't pretend that I do.
The government needs to have some courage here in addressing these issues with people like Elon Musk. You know, that man is taking the human race to Mars. I'm sure he can figure out age verification and what needs to follow from that. Yeah. I mean, obviously the last government started the process of the online safety bill and didn't want to ban social media for under 16s. Christina McAnee, does it feel like this government is taking on the big private tech firms to you?
I do think that at least requiring age verification for the big social media platforms, there's less potential stigma involved if your information gets out. Because the problem with age verification for porn sites is that if your information is leaked, it tells people what your sexual identity is in a way that is potentially devastating for you. So we saw people killing themselves when the Ashley Madison leak happened a few years ago. Whereas if you are having to verify your age to use Twitter and that information is leaked, all it says is that you like to shout at people about politics on the internet, which is less potentially shaming generally.
W?
So yeah, the age verification for social media does
should be
seem
more
a lot
shaming,
less
to be
problematic
honest.
in terms of potential privacy violation than asking people to sign in before they look at the specific sort of porn that appeals to them.
Or effectively?
None I've seen so far, but I completely agree with what my colleagues have said here. I think this is, you have to challenge those people who are providing this and the platforms that people have been able to access it.
Oh God, I would love one of them to say we need to challenge Pornhub. I don't know how hard it is to block some websites in the UK. Obviously everyone can get around it with a VPN, but it does seem to me that a lot of this problem could have been headed off over a decade ago if they'd just paid some attention to the fact that platforms were popping up with stolen porn content. So people were stealing porn from behind paywalls of producers like me, putting it up on Pornhub, Xhamster, all of those sites. It was free to view for the first time ever. Once upon a time there were kind of message boards for pirates and they'd swap files, but Pornhub et al. Made that into a full-scale industry. And if we tackled that at the time and we'd kept porn properly behind paywalls, we wouldn't be in this situation now. I really wish one of them would mention that, because it could have been tackled, and I think it maybe still could be tackled.
And, you know, it's exactly that point that Penny just made. If these are people who say they're the smartest people in the world, they run tech...
Damn, they really want us paying, huh? That's fucked.
This cannot be beyond the wit of them to actually stop it happening.
Well, it's definitely not beyond the wit of them.
Of course it's not.
So the question then is, why are they not stopping it?
So there has to be penalties. The government has to introduce severe penalties on these organisations to make it worth their while to stop doing this. Another point I think that needs to be looked at this as well is particularly the young men that are accessing this. One of the things that I think needs to get properly invested in, and I think there are moves to do this, is to look at the way relationships are taught about in schools and how we deal with things like misogyny and respect for women and girls in schools.
I've got two boys. They've just been through state school. One's just waiting for his A-level results, fingers crossed. They had PSHE throughout the whole of secondary school. I mean...
Yeah, I agree. I think modern sex and social education is doing a really good job.
It's really
what
good,
I've heard.
I have to say. There's a lot of talk about respect and consent and what extreme pornography can do to a young brain. It's, you know, it's not going to work with everybody, but it is happening.
But I think it does. If you are saying in sort of at schools this is bad and you're giving good education, that is obviously a great thing. But if at the same time you're allowing this sort of subterranean world where anything goes, and
of course, subterranean world, Jesus, it's such stigmatizing language. It's not a subterranean world. We're all paying tax. We're all highly regulated, albeit by Visa and /MasterCard.
Of course, all paying
rather
tax,
than
of course,
the
of course.
Subterranean is so offensive. Oh my God, it's just... Oh my God. And like, all they need is a porn performer sitting on the sofa to challenge comments like that. It would be so good.
And that there are, you know, basically no standards, no regulation,
Rubbish,
no scrutiny.
nonsense.
You know, I think the law has to be bumped up, I think. extreme pornography has to be added to. Certain things now need to be put into that bucket.
Like what?
What is illegal? Certainly strangulation, pornography and depictions of, which the government have said they will
Why?
do.
Why though? Because she said we should...
With the meme edit too? Oh, with the meme edit too?
And things now need to be put
That's
into that
crazy.
bucket. Like what is illegal? Certainly strangulation.
With the why though meme edit?
Pornography and depictions of, which the government have said they will do.
Why? Why though?
Why
Because she
though?
said we should just stick to the same rules as the BBFC are allowed to show strangulation in mainstream movies. I don't necessarily think that we should be doing strangulation all over our porn films, but that is an absurd argument. That's completely inconsistent with what she's already said. God.
Needs to go in there immediately, as does, I'm afraid, incest pornography, as awful as that sounds.
Why? Again, if you really want to hold us to the same standard.
So cool. So cool. Why? Why incest porn? Why rape porn? So fucking awesome.
As the BBFC, like depictions of incest are all over mainstream cinema. All over. Forrest Gump, Jesus.
But that is purporting a lot of content that is now encouraging child sexual abuse. There is so much worrying stuff.
Encouraging child sexual abuse? What does that mean? There's a lot of content encouraging child sexual abuse. I wonder if she means like models in school uniforms, which I do sometimes, but I really don't see how that would encourage child sexual abuse, a 48-year-old in a school uniform. I'm not saying she's necessarily
Holy fuck, so awesome.
wrong, because I don't know what she's thinking of. I don't know what she's seen that's given her that impression. But just that it's not being challenged by someone in the industry with experience of what we're actually shooting, that's really infuriating. And again, the rules about depiction of childhood are just getting stricter and stricter all the time. There's an awful lot of stuff I just have to say no to because it's unpublishable. And I'm not talking about incredibly shocking acts. I've just had a video taken down where I was threatening a full-grown man. It was a POV style video, so I was just talking to the camera. My customer wanted me to force him to suck on a giant dummy because he was my employee and I wanted to humiliate him. The video's been taken down for the depiction of an underage child. I mean, there is no depiction of an underage child. I'm the only person in the video and I'm playing a headmistress, and the person I'm speaking to, the POV character, is a full-grown man. But even so, it's been taken down, and honestly, I mean, it doesn't seem particularly fair, but I've not got any particular argument with it. I don't care. But she doesn't seem to believe that any of this censorship is happening, and it really, really is.
On there. So I think that you've got to get the education right, but you also can't just allow anything goes on these sites.
And would that help with the Labour government's aim of halving violence?
Anything does not go on these sites. If you're talking about the legal...
Yeah, this is just like such a stupid, uninformed take, honestly. It is, you know, earlier on in the video, I said I think it would be stupid. I don't think they actually need a pornographer on there. I don't think there's any specialised knowledge. But given how fucking stupid these people are, and they even understand their own fucking laws around porn that we already have, no, they probably could have benefited from having her on there.
Paywalled content, like clips for sale, like ManyVids, like OnlyFans, anything does not go. So is she talking about Pornhub? In that case, like, that is a separate conversation. The lack of recognition that tube sites are operating in an extremely different way from like traditional pay sites is really frustrating. And you know, latterly, actually, Pornhub has come in for quite a bashing from Visa and MasterCard, and they have cleaned up their act. But this is all stuff that it would be great if I would be allowed onto the sofa. It would be nice to be able to talk about these things.
It's against women and girls. Well, I personally think so. I think that you can't... This is a huge issue around prevention, and I think that if you don't tackle this kind of content, then you're not really serious about halving that figure, and I think it would be incredibly disappointing if some of the recommendations I've put forward are not, do not feature.
Violence, including sexual violence towards women and girls, has been endemic for hundreds and hundreds of years. And as a general rule, it has decreased in the last 100 years or so, and has decreased further since online pornography became available around the year 2000. The statistics are rather muddied, as far as I can see, by the fact that reporting is also up, because a lot of women who once wouldn't have bothered to report are beginning to feel emboldened now in the post-Me Too era. So it's a little bit difficult to say. And obviously trying to reduce violence against women and girls or anybody is always a laudable thing to do. I'm just not really sure that the data really supports doing this specific thing about it, as opposed to figuring out why so few rape trials end up with a conviction. Oh my god. So I hope you enjoyed that. I'm feeling on more shaky ground than normal. Usually when I talk about anything on my YouTube channel, it's because I feel fully expert on the subject, which obviously when I'm talking about professional modelling or being a BDSM performer, or kink generally, I feel like I'm pretty safely in the saddle. With this, it's such a complicated issue, and the statistics around it can be so confusing because they can be so contradictory. It is quite difficult to know what really the answer is, because protecting children from seeing stuff that they're not ready to see is important. It's just that also protecting the rights of legal adults to enjoy the sort of entertainment that they want to see, including erotic entertainment, is also important. And also the rights of the large hundreds and thousands of quite often young women who work in this industry, who've quite often come from suboptimal backgrounds, whether they come from some sort of deprivation or chaotic parenting environment, or, you know, a religious cult like me. A lot of them really haven't had the opportunities to launch the sort of businesses that you can launch if your education was excellent, if you had very supportive parents, if you had family money to sink into starting the sort of business that costs more to start up, or if your parents have like fantastic professional contacts. There are a lot of industries that are a lot more difficult to get into if you don't have the right advantages. Not to say it's impossible, but porn is one of the ones where you can be successful despite lack of formal qualifications and despite not knowing people in high places. Pornography is a relatively meritocratic industry compared to a lot of others, and it is one where some women really thrive economically, but also a lot of...
I feel like we've got all we can out of that video. We get it. We get it.